Hi there, welcome to the Love Fly Fear of Flying Q&A. Paul Tizard here. Let me just put captions on. I realised they weren't on there. Captions, there we go. So, sorry it's a bit late today. So I'm running an hour late and I've got no excuse apart from the fact that I'm late. I was actually recording a podcast and this one will be out next week. I think next week or maybe the week after. And it's with somebody from General Aviation, Stacey Burness, who is in our Love Fly Facebook group. So thank you very much, Stacey. And I was, I was running a little bit late, so I haven't had a chance to do this, but it's going to be recorded. So happy days. So thank you for all the questions. Before I get into those, I want to say a huge welcome to all the new joiners. We've had about another 50 this week. Amazing, absolutely amazing. So the numbers are creeping up. We're just nearly getting up to 2.7 thousand now. The podcast downloads are at something like 23 or 24,000 downloads every 30 days, which is just mind-blowing. So thank you so much. I don't know why I did that. I feel better now. So here goes the questions. So here it goes. So from Aphrodite, I'm so worried when I see posted videos during thunderstorms or bad turbulence and all the damages that can time to time might occur during a flight due to strong weather conditions. That makes me wonder how much can an airplane withstand? Is the inside damage not considered a structural damage? And could it also happen unexpectedly? So two questions there really. Well, there's a few things. So in terms of the turbulence, yes, it can happen unexpectedly because you can't see it. Sometimes they can predict it, but it is based on a very complex set of models. So it doesn't always get it right. That's the way it goes. Now, if you've got your seatbelt on, you're fine. And I know you might think, well, that's a bit glib, but the reality is nothing will happen to the aircraft. So unfortunately, I would say don't watch any of those videos. I know if you have watched them that your feed will automatically then send you these things in future, but I would say just delete them, because when people are filming it, if they do film them, they often exaggerate what's going on because it makes it more clickbaity. And so if you think about the inside of an aircraft, that stuff is meant to wiggle about and it's meant to be sort of flexible. So things will open, things will fall out quite easily because it's not meant to be rigid. If it's rigid, you think about the aircraft, it flexes when it flies. They're very strong and a little bit bendy. That's what gives them its strength, believe it or not. And so the stuff inside is just the cosmetic stuff. It's not the aircraft. It's the aircraft is the structure, the airframe itself is ridiculously strong, stronger than anything that nature will throw at it in terms of turbulence. So if you're strapped to it, you're strapped to the aircraft. So, you know, an overhead locker thing opens or stuff falls out, things fall over. That's just, they're meant to do that. It's not meant to be rigidly secure. That's why when we know there's going to be turbulence, the first thing that cabin crew do is come through, make sure you've all got seatbelts on before takeoff and landing, when it's going to be a bit more dynamic in terms of the movement. That's why they want everything away, you know, so everything cleared, all the exits cleared, all your footwells, the seats upright if they do move. I know a lot of aircraft have stopped doing those now, and the tables and everything cleared, because then it's just about like having less stuff around. So I don't know if that helps or not, but it's literally, I think, fortunately, it makes it very, very media worthy, all those sort of images, and they're not actually true to life. And that is not the aircraft. That's just the stuff inside that makes it okay for us to sit in there. But the bits which matter in terms of its integrity are the airframe itself. And you are, if you're strapped to your seat, you are strapped to the aircraft, and the aircraft is not bothered by it, or the pilots for that matter. So good question, thank you. So Mark has asked, I have an 11-hour flight coming up, and much to my annoyance, my anxiety is creeping up again. Could be excitement. Cheesy, I know. Any last minute tips, general comments on planning, resilience, contingency of long haul flights? So I'm not quite sure if you're asking about your own or whether the aircraft, but the aircraft themselves are, the ones that do those long flights are designed to do those long flights, and they're tested and regulated to fly that distance. They have more fuel than they need. They take routes that are decided. They're always near runways that are suitable to land on. It's planned, thought about, and everything is checked. So when you get on your flight, it's not just kind of like, oh, you know, can we push it and go a bit further? I think the worst thing for you, and this actually comes up to somebody else who's asked this question later on, is like, it's a long flight, and so you have, your mind has time to wander and think, oh, I wonder what about this, and perhaps you'll find yourself on duty as a standby pilot in your head and think, well, I better concentrate for the flight. But actually, you need to think about yourself, because that's not your job's, not the flight. Your job is to entertain yourself, to structure the time, and trust that they are professionals doing their jobs, because it's not your job to do it. Your job is to get on there, find things to do, bring yourself some water, have food, eat, try and watch a film, distract yourself, and that's your job. Everything else is down to other people, professionals, regulated, licensed, and tested people to do their bit. I don't know if that helps or not. But I'm just going to jump to this. Courtney's asked a question, and it's similar to this one, but in a slightly different slant. I'm taking my first long-haul flight next week from San Francisco to Thailand, 12 hours straight in the air for my first flight. Well done. That's brilliant. You'll love long flights. There's a lot more room, and they don't move as much, those big aircraft. I'm working through daily anxiety. What can I do to keep my mind healthy and calm for 12 hours? It's hard to fathom being in the air for such a long time. It is, yeah, it's boring as hell. And keep your mind healthy and calm. Well, good luck with that. I've just done a flight for 5 hours a couple of weeks ago, and I was going crazy with just boredom. There's no entertainment on flight, apart from watching the cabin crew, and that wasn't that entertaining. It's boring. So you got to think about, I think Pete Higgins' tip here about chunking, you know, like chunking the time up and bringing things, think in terms of units of time. You know, like in that film about a boy, think about units of time, 30 or 60 minutes. What can I be doing to entertain myself? Because to stay calm and, you know, when would you ever sit? I always say this, when would you ever sit for 12 hours and just do nothing? You never do that. You wouldn't do it at home, but sit for an hour, would you? You know, you'd be doing something. Would be watching the film or something. You'd get up and go to the loo. And so to expect ourselves to just sit there and love it is, I think, unrealistic. And you need to think about that in terms of what's my plan, what's my strategy for entertaining myself for that amount of time. Make sure you bring your own water, bring some snacks so you're not reliant on the crew, because if they're busy or you can't see them at that particular moment. So you've got to look at it like this is, sometimes I describe it a bit like this. It's somewhere between endurance versus enjoyment. You know, so a short flight, I love the short flight because it's there, I'm off the aircraft and, you know, it's job done. But a long flight, yes, I mean, it's lovely if you can watch films and stuff like that, but, you know, a long flight requires that, you know, is it slightly less enjoyable, more about endurance? I don't know, you decide. So if you know you're going to be anywhere, if you have to do a 12-hour train journey, how would you chunk it up? There's no difference. It's just that you're in the air, so that your brain is telling you something slightly different, but it's just a journey. I don't know if that helps or not. Rosalie, if someone is thoroughly checking the safety of a plane before every flight, when the flight lands and there's a short turnaround to the next one, does any aspect of the safety check get abbreviated? Is the check more than just to walk around once around the plane? Okay, very good question. So nothing gets abbreviated because it's all regulated. Remember, the aircraft engineers are licensed, and they also can lose their license, and everything they do is double checked by somebody else, a supervising engineer. It's not in their interest to compromise safety, because without safety there's no business, blah blah blah. Okay, so what does that actually mean? I know when you see a short flight, you think, oh my goodness, they just landed, they booted the passengers off, and then we're getting on again. They still do a check, but it's done in cycles. So with a longer flight, so if you did like an 8 or 9 hour from the UK to, I don't know, like a long, somewhere like 7 or 8 hours, so maybe New York or something. Yeah, you have a big check at the beginning and a big check at the end of the flight. Okay, for a smaller aircraft that's doing more hops, you still have the big one at the beginning and at the end, and then they do certain checks when it lands. And it doesn't take long to do those certain things, but they're all regulated, and that is all part of the procedure. There's nothing that's abbreviated, or there's no shortcuts. It's got to be done. And so you'll end up waiting in the aircraft, the airport lounge, because they haven't done those checks. So no, I hope that helps. That's the straight out. That was a nice one, that. So I can't see answer that one. Okay, so Debbie says, my daughter wants to know how the plane can stay up in the sky. She's petrified of the height it will get. Also wondering how the plane does not drop. So I would say it's physics. And I've always wondered, how the hell does it stay up there? It blows my mind. No matter how many times I listen to it, think about it, I always think, yeah, but how does it actually do it? It's like, how does it actually stay up there? It's phenomenal. It's just the law of physics, like other laws, like gravity. We accept gravity's there. I can't see gravity, but I know it's there because I'm not on the ceiling right now. But so I accept that but I can't see it. And when we fly, there are laws of physics at play that you can't really understand. So we just have to, sometimes we have to sort of go, okay, I don't really get it. It just is. It's hard for someone to comprehend that. Some people, so one of the ways that you might think about this, particularly for when you think about the lift, and there's the trick that was taught to me, was like, there's a lot of force. If you imagine, this is a small example, you're going down the road and you put your hand out of the car window, and if you put your hand sort of flat like that, it will be pushed back because of the power of that invisible air. Okay, and that's you just sticking your hand out of a car window, going at hardly any miles an hour. So imagine a massive hand called a wing set at a certain angle so that it optimizes lift, okay, and going at a phenomenal speed with huge engines to push it forward. Can you imagine the force of that? And that's what we're talking about. And so that is what holds us up there, keeps us going. And it's really hard to get your head around that, but it is just a physical thing that we just have to accept, like lots of other physical things that happen. So the plane, in terms of will it not drop, it won't drop. And I would suggest that you listen to one of the podcasts, which is about stages of flight, which is with Steve Bull, and the Love Fly podcast. I can't remember what episode it is. Somebody will probably put it in the comments, but that one talks about the stages of flight. And then just thinking about and listening to that repeatedly, you can think, this is just predictable. This happens, then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And this is all completely normal. And that, as they say, is your lot. So thank you for tuning in. Sorry it's late, and I will make sure that it's available in the files and media section of the Facebook group, and also it'll be on our YouTube channel as well, which is, I think if you search Love Fly, it'll be on there, so it'll be available later. And just want to say this week's podcast, which will be out on Wednesday, is with a guy called Ron Daniel, who's in the Love Fly group. Now, Ron had not flown for 32 years. And so he was talking about some of the people that helped him, such as Janice and Brian Morris, and Pete Higgins gets a little mention as well, and Fiona with your 2 podcast episodes. He found all those really, really helpful. But he also shares some other tips that helped him, which I think you'll find really useful. So check that out. That'll be out at 7 o'clock UK time in the podcast. On the Love Fly podcast, and all the normal podcast places that can get it, and also on our website, which is lovefly.co.uk, lovefly.co.uk. And also just want to say that if you are kind of struggling, you want a little bit of extra help, quick plug, some information. One of the things that we've got at the moment, which is still, I think, a really good deal, is our 30-day program, which is a little video every day, which takes you through like a course, and it builds up, it's cumulative. And a lot of people that are out flying now have used this. And we've always got a small cohort that are going through at any one point. So right now, as I looked earlier on, there's 15 people that are currently going through it at different stages. So there's always like a little trickle of people just getting some help. And if you're thinking that I need a little bit more help than other than just the podcast, then I would say that's not a bad place to go. We also have one of our webinars, or it's a combination of a few actually, that we recorded a while back, and that's also available as an instant download on our lovefly.co.uk shop page. So if you need some extra help, they are available to you. So thanks again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you or speaking to you on Wednesday. Until then, take care.